Today, we're diving into the story of an absolute legend in the skies, the Boeing 777. It's a story of incredible success, for sure, but it's also a story of really tough challenges, challenges that changed aviation forever. And that quote right there, it really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. See, this isn't just a story about a plane. It's about us, about our complicated, sometimes messy relationship with the very technology we build to keep us safe. Okay, let's get into it. So, to really get a grip on the challenges the 777 faced, you've got to first understand why it was such a massive deal to begin with. I mean, this thing wasn't just another plane. It was a twin-engine revolution, and it totally rewrote the rules for flying long distances. See, before the 777 came along, if you wanted to fly a long way over an ocean, you were on a plane with 3 or even 4 engines. It was just a safety thing, right? More engines, more backup. But the 777 was so ridiculously reliable that it changed all that. And it did it because of this one little acronym, ETOPS. Just look at that number, over 3 million. That's how many of these long-range flights the 777 has pulled off without a hitch. And get this, that's more than double all of its competitors combined. It's no exaggeration to say it literally redrew the world map for airlines. But you know, even the most reliable machines can have a secret or two hiding inside. And for the 777, its first big test came from something nobody saw coming, an invisible threat that was about to make everyone question what they thought they knew. Picture this, London Heathrow, January 2008. British Airways Flight 38 is on final approach after a long flight from Beijing. Everything seems normal, and then, just moments from touching down, both engines just quit. The plane slams into the ground short of the runway. Incredibly, everyone survives. But the question on everyone's mind was, how on earth do 2 of the most reliable jet engines in the world fail at the exact same time? So, investigators pull the black boxes, and they piece together the last terrifying minute. Less than 60 seconds from landing, the right engine spools down. 7 seconds later, the left one does the same. Then, with just 10 seconds to go, the stick shaker goes off. That's the plane's last-ditch alarm, violently shaking the controls to scream, "We're about to fall out of the sky." It was a complete, catastrophic power loss out of nowhere. And the cause? Well, it was something that sounded almost made up. They called it the ice avalanche effect. Basically, over that long, cold flight, tiny bits of soft ice built up in the fuel lines. When the pilots called for more power to land, that surge of fuel dislodged all the ice at once, sending a slushy avalanche right into the engine's heat exchanger, clogging it and starving the engines of fuel. It was this perfect storm that no one had ever imagined, let alone tested for. So, what came out of this near disaster? Well, it turned into this incredible story of discovery. Engineers redesigned one small part, the fuel oil heat exchanger, to stop that ice from ever building up again. And that fix was rolled out to every single 777, making the whole fleet safer because of what they learned. The next hurdle for the 777 wasn't about a hidden mechanical flaw. Oh no, this one was way more complicated. It was about the relationship between the human in the cockpit and the computer. This brings us to San Francisco, July 2013. Asiana Flight 214. The weather was beautiful, not a cloud in the sky, the plane was in perfect condition, and yet, on final approach, it came in way too low and way too slow, hitting the seawall at the end of the runway. This was the 777's first ever fatal accident, and nobody could understand why it happened. To get what went wrong, you kind of have to understand that there are 2 big ideas about how to fly a modern jet. Boeing's philosophy, which you see in the 777, is all about the pilot feeling the plane through a traditional control yoke. It's hands-on. Airbus, on the other hand, uses a side stick. The pilot tells the computer what they want to do, and the computer flies the plane. 2 very different ways of thinking. So the NTSB digs in, and what they find is fascinating and kind of scary. The pilots simply got confused. They thought the plane's autothrottle system was managing their speed on approach. But it wasn't. They'd become so reliant on the automation that they lost track of their most basic job, flying the airplane. And that's that dangerous paradox we talked about. The very system designed to reduce error actually created a brand new deadly one. And that brings us to the 777's third and perhaps greatest challenge, a story that turned into one of the most haunting mysteries in the history of flight. the ghost flight. I mean, how does a massive 200-ton jetliner just disappear? That's the question the world started asking on March 8, 2014, when Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, with 239 souls on board, vanished from radar. Investigators went through everything with a fine-tooth comb. The pilot? Highly experienced. The plane? No known mechanical issues. Bad cargo? Nope. Highly unlikely. They ruled out one thing after another until they were left with a truly chilling possibility. The biggest clue, the one that really sends a shiver down your spine, came from the satellite communication system. Hours after the plane went missing, the system suddenly rebooted itself and tried to log back on with the satellite. But look at this. When it did, the plane's ID and flight number were gone, wiped clean. That doesn't just happen by accident. The official report had to conclude that the communication systems were probably turned off manually, deliberately. But without the plane, without the black boxes, we just don't know who did it or why. The ultimate mystery of MH370 remains unsolved. So when you put it all together, the triumphs, the tragedies, the mysteries, what does it all mean? What is the real legacy of the 777, and how did its story shape what comes next? Well, the thing is, the 777's toughest moments are what made it one of the industry's greatest teachers. It uncovered weird mechanical problems nobody knew existed. It put a giant spotlight on the messy relationship between pilots and automation. And of course, it showed us how terrifyingly easy it was to lose a plane in the modern age. It forced everyone to get better. And you can see those lessons being put to work right now. The story isn't over. The next chapter is the Boeing 777X, and everything learned from the original is being baked right into its DNA, especially its engines, which are getting more testing than any engine in history. And speaking of those engines, look at that number. 134 inches. That's the diameter of the fan on the new GE9X engine. To put that in perspective, the engine is wider than the entire body of some smaller jets. It's just a mind-blowing symbol of how we're always pushing for more power and more efficiency. So, in the end, the 777 story is really a cautionary tale, isn't it? It taught us some incredibly hard lessons about where engineering ends and where human complexity begins. And as we build planes that are even smarter, even more automated, you have to wonder, have we really learned those lessons? Or are we just setting the stage for the next unforeseen challenge? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.